Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Belgium once again, and we're going to revisit one of the breweries who you saw me review just a couple of weeks ago, and I really enjoyed the beer that I had from them, and I've got another one and I really just wanted to have a taste of this beer, hence why I'm reviewing these guys so quickly again. So for this one we're going to return to Ingelmunster in West Flanders, and we're having a taste of another beer from Brouwerij van Honsebrouck. We're going to go back and have a look at another one from their Kasteel range. So today I'm reviewing for you the Kasteel Tripel, which comes in at 11% ABV. Now from what I gather, this one is quite heavy in terms of a Tripel. I don't think I've had many that have been up around this kind of ABV. I always thought normally a Tripel was somewhere between 9 and 10%, so 11% from memory does seem as if it's a little bit heavy, but the last beer I had from these guys, as I say, was pretty good. You know, these guys are producing some good beers, we're not going to question that, but it should be a really nice one. I'm certainly looking forward to it, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. It's been really cool to review some more Belgian beers for you over the last little while. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brouwerij van Honsebrouck before. Hopefully I can review some more from their different ranges in the fairly near future, so keep an eye out for that. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Belgian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, of course, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes about Brouwerij van Honsebrouck then. So as I mentioned to you, Brouwerij van Honsebrouck is located in Ingelmunster, or sometimes it's credited as Izegem, which there is two little towns that are close together. I'm not sure if one's the municipality or whatever it is, so if you're watching from Belgium, do please get in touch and tell me what the difference is exactly. But this is in West Flanders, and the Kasteel beer is of course named after the castle on the Mandel River that was built by Robrecht de Vries, the Count of Flanders, around the year 1075, and this castle was of course known as the Fortress of Flanders. But several noble families occupied the castle over the following centuries, and this included the de Rodas, the Van Histels, the Burgundy family, the Van Cleefs, the Plothos, and also the de Montblancs as well. But in 1736 the castle was converted into a country mansion, and the Van Honsebrouck family bought the castle in 1986 and started producing the Kasteel beers in 1989, which were of course named after the fortress itself. So the Van Honsebrouck family actually have quite the brewing dynasty, and this dates back to 1811 with Amandus, who was the mayor of a village called Werken, and he owned a farm that included a dairy, brewery, and also distillery as well. But his business was taken over by Emile, who married Louise de Porter, who came from Ingelmunster, and there was actually a bit of a family feud, and then Emile and Louise left Werken and set up breweries, first in Wichte and then also in Kortrijk, and neither of these were actually successful, but then they later moved to a farm on the outskirts of Ingelmunster and set up the St. Joseph brewery, which was a commercial success. So in 1922 Louise passed on the brewery to her son Paul, and then he was joined by his eldest brother Ernest, and they expanded the brewery, which was brewing bocks, exports and pills at the time. So Ernest actually remained a bachelor, and it was Paul's son Luke who took over the business in 1953 after his father became ill and having studied brewing in Germany. But he developed the Bacchus beer in 1954, and he dropped the St. Joseph name in favour of Van Honsebrouck, and he later developed Goitse and St. Louis Creek as well, with yeast that he got from Van Halen Frères in Uccle, and the Goise was launched in the year 1958. The St. Louis Creek apparently was named after Luke's wife's grandfather Louis Lampard as well, which is one of the kind of little facts that they like to put in on the website there as well. But apparently in the 1960s there was a bit of a rivalry between the two big creek breweries in Belgium, and this came out on the football field, on the sports field, as many things tend to do in the countries. But Bellevue were sponsoring Anderlecht from Brussels, and the St. Louis name was being used by Club Bruges. From Bruges, of course, and in the I don't know if it's still called the Belgian Jupiler League, but you know, those are probably the two big teams in Belgium, Anderlecht and Club Brugge. You know, I think they're the ones who've probably won the most titles out of all the other ones. They're certainly the Belgian teams that I would know anyway. But in the 1990s, the Lambic brewers in Brussels were actually pressing the government to have a royal decree issued that stated the conditions required for a beer to be labelled as Lambic. I guess kind of in a similar way to the likes of the Trappist organisations and things like that. But Luke was actually instrumental in persuading the government to omit the geographical requirement, which was going to say that lambics had to be produced within a 20-kilometre radius of Brussels. But the brewery has been run by Xavier van Honsebrouck since 2009, and he's been modernising and expanding the brewery, which now has a capacity of around 25 million litres of beer, which is really quite impressive. But today the brewery produce the Castile beers, the St. Louis lambics, also the Bacchus beers, the Brigand, Fond Tradition, and also Passchendaele as well. So, you know, we do see the lambic beers, the Bacchus beers in the supermarkets and things over here, but when I was first reviewing these beers, I had no idea that Castile was actually related to the Bacchus beers as well. It is actually kind of cool when you go to these Belgian breweries. There does seem to be the kind of parent brewery, if you like, and they do tend to have a couple of different brands, which is pretty cool. But the Castile beers are quite popular. It was someone on the channel recommended that I have a look at the Donka, and I was really impressed with that, and I got the Tripel as well, simply because I really enjoy the style. And you don't see these beers about all that often in shops and things like that, so this was one that I actually ordered online. So yeah, should be a really interesting beer, this one. But that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. And the Belgian breweries always tend to have quite a good history as well, so I always enjoy telling you guys about that. But if you want to read more about the brewery, a more in-depth history, take a little look at the website in the description below, and you can follow Brouwerij van Honsebrouck on Facebook and things like that as well. I think there is a separate page for the Castile beers, if I'm remembering correctly too. But yeah, as you can see, nicely presented beer, this one. These Castile beers all tend to have quite similar labels. They're just different colours depending on what beer it is. There you can see the Castile symbol just on the side there. There is a symbol here that says they're using Belgian hops in this one, which is pretty cool as well. So it is a completely, you know, unique a completely unique Belgian beer, if you like. And there you can see it does have its own a specific bottle cap as well. But yeah, nicely presented, this one. As you can see, little 330 Belgian stubby bottle. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting. It's certainly looking forward to this one. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, but it's not going to go crazy as some of the Belgian beers do. You really have to watch with some of these Belgian beers because they do like to escape from the bottle a little bit. But we'll get this guy out then and get on with the tasting. That's a really clear Tripel, actually. That's one of the clearest ones I've ever seen. That's very unusual. I don't think I've ever seen a Tripel that has come out quite as clear as that. You know, that could easily be a Pils or something like that. If I looked at that, I would think, you know, maybe a Pilsner beer. The only thing that gives it away probably is that massive head that it has. But yeah, as you can see, really pretty much crystal clear pale golden straw colour on this one. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see right through this beer. A lot of carbonation visible in this one. That of course is typical of a Belgian beer. You could see there was a good solid 2 fingers of head on this one. I would say it's a perfect white head. Don't think there's any debate about that. When you're moving the beer around, you can smell some of these nice kind of grassy and bready notes out of it. But yeah, it looks, yeah, quite an unusual looking Tripel, I would say, this one. Normally you do expect them to have a little bit of haze to them. Some of them, I probably have seen 1 or 2 clear ones and I'm just not remembering, but I think that is probably fair to say that's the clearest Tripel that I've ever seen. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, of course, but yeah, quite a lot of it just firing up towards the bottom of that head there. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. Yeah, so quite a sweet smell coming off this beer. For me, it's the bready notes that are coming out of this beer. It's got that typical doughy, bready, Belgian yeast sort of thing to it. It's got that typical aroma to it. Not much in the way of bananas or anything like that coming off this one. The last one that I reviewed for, or the last review that I filmed actually of a Belgian beer was the Chimay, and that really had a big banana note to it, but this one's definitely more bready and kind of doughy and things like that. I love it how with this style and with these kind of quite famous breweries, if you like, they all have their own little quirks and things like that. But yeah, with this one, this has got a lot, for me, there's a good bit of caramel in there, but it's not quite as pungent or as strong, if you like. There's a nice sweet sort of biscuity note to it, which is good. And it's probably, that's quite prominent, I think, probably because this beer is a little bit boozier than some of the other Tripels that you're going to come across. But yeah, nice sort of, it's got, on the hoppy side of things, it is quite grassy. There's maybe a little touch of a herbal and floral quality coming off it as well. And on the fruity side of things, it's quite interesting. It's got a little touch of maybe a peachy note to it, but mainly it's a kind of apricot-y, kind of sultana thing that's coming out of this one. There's maybe a wee bit of a sort of peary note as well, maybe some oranges. Nah, not oranges, sorry, we like pears. It's got a sort of appley, peary orchard kind of thing to it. But yeah, in terms of the hoppy side of things, grassy, floral, definitely. Yeah, grassy and floral, sort of a kind of peary, appley thing to it. Bit of apricot. Reminds me of the yogurts my mum used to give me, the little Munch Bunch yogurts that my mum gave me when I was going to primary school and having my packed lunches and stuff. Maybe just, I don't think there's oranges in the aroma, but there may well be in the actual flavour. We'll just need to see. But for me, this isn't one of the more kind of pungent aromas you're going to get from a Tripel. This aroma is a little bit more reserved than some of the other ones I've come across, I would say. But yeah, definitely a little bit more bready, a lot of doughy yeasts. Maybe even a little touch of a slightly wheaty note or something, just sort of white bready quality. But quite a bit of biscuit. I think that it leans more towards the kind of biscuity side of things rather than anything else. But as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But let's have a taste of this one now. So this one is the Kasteel Tripel from Brouwerij van Honsebrouck in Ingelmunster in West Flanders in Belgium. Let's get stuck into this one. Proost, santé. Yeah. Tell you something, on first taste, it comes in and it has a little bit of bite to it, this beer. I would definitely say that about it. Big oily mouthfeel, that's the other first impression I've got of this one. Yeah. It's a nice one, this, but immediately you can tell kind of how strong it is, if you like. It really is. It's a bit of a beast, this beer, I would say. It's nice though. It just be aware of that when you come in with this one. It will, it does give you a bit of alcohol warmth right away. But I do like this one. I love it how, as I say, I love it how you can try all these different beers from Belgium that are the same style, and they've just all got their little quirks and things like that. This one, for me, the first thing you're going to notice about this one is it comes in with a bit of sharpness. You can tell immediately it's a little bit boozy, but it's got a very almost clean mouthfeel to it. It's got a really clean, quite oily mouthfeel to it, this one. So let's just, you know, I'll need to give it a little bit more of a sugar around my palate to get used to it properly. Yeah, so with this beer, in terms of the kind of malty, yeasty aspects of it, you can feel a little bit of that slightly white, bready quality there. That kind of blankets the middle of your tongue. Just a little bit of it though. On top of that, you can feel the slightly thicker, doughy, yeasty qualities coming out of it. But yeah, in terms of it's an interesting one, this. It's definitely, there's a bit of biscuity flavour as the flavour kind of moves on a little bit, as you progress further and further into the flavour. There's a nice little bit of a biscuity sweetness there, kind of evolves around the edge of the tongue, but right in the middle of the palate, it does have a little bit of a kind of caramelly note to it, but it's quite a light caramel. It's almost like a sort of caramel wafer or something like that. And that's, I think, the kind of boozy aspect of the beer. As I say, 11%, in my experience, that's quite a strong Tripel, this one. There probably are ones that are stronger right enough, but for me, I do think this is quite a strong Tripel. But yeah, it's a nice, yeah, it's definitely got a nice sort of caramel wafery note in the middle, and as I say, the biscuity flavours come out as you go a little bit further out towards the kind of sides of your palate there. I would say as you go further and further into the aftertaste, the kind of bready, doughy qualities start to come out a little bit more as well, which is nice. On the hoppy side of things, it's quite an interesting one. Back corners of the palate, there's a little touch of earthiness there. It's almost a little bit, the earthiness out of this beer is almost just a little bit sweet actually. The hoppy qualities are quite interesting. Like, I'm really starting to get a bit more well versed in Belgian hops now. And as I always said that about the German beers, you can really tell the German noble hop qualities once you've had a good couple of their beers, and I'm starting to notice that about the Belgian hops as well. They've got their own kind of distinctive sort of flavours to them. So in the back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness there. It's got that, it's almost quite, it almost just has a little bit of sweetness to it, but as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, there's a little bit of a herbal quality in there. But it's mixing with the floral notes, and as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, a slightly more kind of, pardon me, floral aromatic note starts to come out on the sides of the tongue. Then round the very front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy, and there is almost a kind of lemony note coming out at the front of the palate as well. It's almost like a kind of, it's not quite lemongrass, it's a little bit stronger in terms of the lemony qualities than that. Yeah, there is definitely a little bit of a kind of slightly lemony citrus to this beer, but that kind of fades away quite quickly and the focus goes more on to the fruits in this one. So if you just go behind the front curve of the palate there, you'll feel that little oily bubble where those nice kind of juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer, and you can feel, for me, this one's really interesting. It's almost got like an apricot base to it, but then as you go further and further into the flavour, it evolves, and I don't know if there's maybe just a little touch of a kind of peachy flavour or something there, but it's kind of like a sort of dried sultana flavour. It's almost like a kind of, it's like dried peach or something like that. There's maybe a little touch of a slightly candied red fruit to this one as well, which is quite interesting. There's almost, it's not gooseberries. Maybe, I think it's more of a kind of apricot-y flavour that's coming out of this one for me. Yeah, I think there is a little touch of a slightly red candied fruit flavour to this one. It reminds me a little bit of the, you know, it's got a little touch of the kind of heart-shaped sweets from the Haribo Star Mix, but if you think about the sort of yellow, not yellow, the sort of blonde coloured bears in the gold bear and the little gummy bear sweets, it kind of has a little bit of that sort of flavour to it as well. There's a sort of peary, appley ester to this one. That would have been the better description actually. Duh. That definitely has a bit of that kind of peary, appley, orchard ester kind of thing to it as well with this beer. That would have been the better descriptor for it actually, and it's come to me now. But yeah, as I say, a little bit of apricot-y quality to this one, and a little bit of the lemony citrus and the kind of grassy notes to it as well. But overall, as I would say, it's quite an interesting beer, this one. I do like how it kind of comes across. It's definitely a little bit more boozy than some of the other Tripels that you're going to come across, but certainly a really nice beer. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again, but at 11%, it's one that you're only going to have one of these and it'll pretty much set you up to enjoy your evening, I would say. It's not one that you're going to session, but then again, for me, the Tripels and the Quadrupels aren't beers that you can do that anyway. And I mean, I have to admit, when it comes to Belgian beers, I find it quite hard to session them because they do lean towards the yeasty side of things. Even the blondes, I love a good Belgian blonde, but you know, I can only probably drink like one of these in one night out, and it's probably just because I'm not used to it. The Belgians can probably fire those down quite easily, but you know, the Belgian beers for me, I always just like having one to enjoy the flavour rather than session. That's what the Belgian beers are all about for me, of course. But yeah, really interesting beer, this one, and as I say, it's always cool to see how these Tripels have their own little quirks. In terms of the mouthfeel, I would say with this one, mid-bodied. I think it's on the higher side of mid-bodied, but it is a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is Carbonation with this one, I would say it's got a moderate carbonation. It is a little bit active, this one. The mouthfeel overall, it has quite a bit of an oily feel to it. The carbonation, like I said, is quite active. Nice little bit of a kind of a hoppy bitterness to it, but not overall. I would get, if I had to guess, I'd say somewhere around 30 IBUs to this beer, somewhere in that range. Nice little bit of smoothness to the malt base in this one. It has a little bit of sweetness, as I was saying, from the sort of biscuity kind of caramel notes covering the booze up a little bit, and there's a good bit of juicy, fruity kind of quality to this one as well. For me, in terms of the flavour, this beer, it leans a little bit more towards the kind of bready and biscuity side of things on the kind of malty, yeasty side of the beer, but then on the hoppy side, it's got a little bit more floral quality, and with the fruity side, it's a little bit more apricotty and sort of peary. I think that's the kind of a good way to sort of describe this beer. But overall, it's really nice. As I said, one of the more boozy tripels that you're going to come across, but a very, very solid beer nonetheless. It's definitely on the heavier side of things for this tripel style, but for me, I really like it. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. And you know, the two beers that I've tried from Kasteel now I've been pretty impressed with. So a big thumbs up to the guys at Brouwerij van Honsebrouck for this one. You know, great stuff. So hopefully I need to probably try their blonde, because that's the other style that I really, really enjoy. So hopefully I can review that for you at some point. But I will need to try some of the beers from the different ranges as well. The Bacchus and things like that. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one just now. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brouwerij van Honsebrouck as well. Let me know what your favourite beers are in the Kasteel range. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out all my social media. All the links are in the description below. But make sure you try some of these Kasteel beers if you haven't already, because they are pretty damn good, I have to say. And this is one of the cool things. My viewers have given me some really good recommendations, and the Kasteel beers have proved to be one that have been quite popular. So once again, thank you to you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. So this was the Kasteel Tripel, 11%, one of the heavier tripels you're going to come across from Brouwerij van Honsebrouck in Ingelmunster in West Flanders in Belgium. Until the next time, it's Slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Proust, santé.